You're talking about the fires. Now they're in San Diego also, and
Oh no.
yeah.
Yeah. There's one down by my parents. They haven't been evacuated yet, but we'll see what happens. It's
Oh
called, I think they're
no.
calling it the border fire. So it's like on the
Uh,
mountain that's along the border, but getting ready because they've got to evacuate Noah's Ark. They've got 3 cats and 2 50-pound plus tortoises. So
oh my gosh. Wow.
they've got a
Wow.
lot going on.
Is the fire like in Tijuana?
No, but it's so the Otay Mountain is like it's almost along the border, and it
Oh,
like
okay.
goes towards Arizona, but it's behind their house. So there's some
Oh,
people who are evacuated, but their neighborhood's not yet. So
all right.
they've
Well,
got the choppers and the airdrops and everything to try and get it under control.
wow, man. What a mess. So sorry for our friends in Southern California this week and last week. Lord have mercy. Well, I hope they're okay, Bianca. I hope the tortoise, because they're probably like 50 years old, right? They're old. These
Yeah,
tortoises live.
Yeah, we've inherited them from my uncle, and I'll probably inherit them in
Yeah.
another 30 years. So
right. Another.
Oh my
They
God.
they live on and on. Like there's still a tortoise like on Darwin Island that I think Darwin it was his turtle. Back. So, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wednesday Warehouse, the segment where we go over the week's beer news. I have Jim Litzkirk and Bianca Bruno on the line. And hey, hell of a summit. Thank everybody. Thanks for coming. I hope, we got survey results. The only bad survey results I got were about me. So that's
No.
good. That was okay. That's okay. Hey, if you don't like F-bombs, then just skip my segment, So,
Did anybody say anything about your masturbatory interlude with Jim Cook?
yes. That was the comment I'm talking about. He dropped a lot of F-bombs and he said masturbate, and I'm like, it's probably a wine and spirits person, so
Yeah,
whatever.
probably.
So what about this week's beer news? What happened, Jen?
Ooh,
I've
it
been
was
dealing with plumbing.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, it was kind of a big week for sort of sneaky news because, of course, it started Monday
Right.
with Trump's inauguration. We thought there were going to be these day one tariffs. He didn't say anything specifically about the 25% tariff in Mexico and Canada until, and then news came out from the Wall Street Journal and other outlets that he had actually appointed like federal agencies to kind of study the issue. But then, of course, in Trump style, later on that night, he said offhandedly to reporters like, yep, we think we're going to do 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico because they, keep letting people come in. And we think we're going to do it February 1st. So we'll see. Not a done deal. But that was the first big news of the week. And then it rolled on. We actually unveiled some sneaky innovation from some of the big brewers. Harry, you wrote about AB's Skimmers, which is their AB's regional play that's going to roll out this year in just a couple of states. That's kind of like a Surfside or Sun Cruiser type play, 4.5% ABV, 100 cows. And it has the same sort of, cues on the cans as the other brands in that segment. So we'll see.
A skimmer, for those who don't know, is a type of seabird that skims along the surface of the water using the hydrofoil effect, usually in bay areas. In case anybody was wondering what a skimmer was.
Yeah.
Because some people also refer to people who are scamming in C-stores who put skimmers into credit card readers. That's also called a skimmer, but that's different. A different skimmer. But yeah, I thought I thought it interesting that they didn't do it under the Cutwater brand. However, they do say they call out Cutwater on the packaging, saying made with Cutwater vodka. So they're kind of using Cutwater, but kind of different. I think it's clever.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, obviously this space in vodka iced tea stands to get bigger. Let's see if those brands get consolidated this year or not, but that's for another episode, right? That's for our predictions. Another suite of big brewer innovations that we reported on were a bunch of things from Constellation, which, really we hadn't heard on any public analyst calls or earnings calls, but our dear, deep, nefarious, dank, dark distributor sources sent us some memos
with nicotine stained fingers, and and
they sent us these notices to distributors that they're going to have these national rollouts of Corona Sun Brew, which of course is sort of like an FMB that's going national in different formats, including a 24-ounce can, which they think will play good with the younger LDA consumers. Also, Modelo Oro bottle 12 packs, which is a new format for that because, they think that's actually a good package for the on-premise as well. They're trying to get their high-end light beer a little more robust. They mentioned that on the call. And then there was what was the last one? It's like an Aguas Frescas Horchata 24-ounce can. Modelo Aguas Frescas Horchata 24-ounce can, which is going to help them supposedly in the FMB space. So interesting that those sort of flew under the radar, but they are going national this spring and hopefully will help, juice some of their results as comps get really tough for them this year, even though, they're still doing great. I mean, comps are comps. What else? Rolling along. We had some.
Well, let me just say real quick. Now I did miss one segment of Samcom, but I don't think they mentioned skimmers in Samcom, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah.
Maybe because it's not national, so they didn't want to, maybe they just did that in regional meetings, but
Branch news broke this morning. AB has struck a deal anyway with Sound Beverage up in Washington to buy some of their AB brands or buy their AB brands, the brand rights, but also try to get some non-AB brand rights too for craft and non-alc. And they have like the best non-alc portfolio you could think of with all the hot brands. So we'll see if suppliers approve that or not on a case-by-case basis. But it is interesting that the AB branches are looking to get into more non-AB brands. And I am kicking myself that I didn't get to that question with Simon Westenberg on stage last week. Like, it was in my list. But anyway, he probably wouldn't have said anything about it anyway. So. No,
he wouldn't have. But
yeah.
They're very strategic about branch. Like in the old days, like the Paul Pisano, and they would all freak out about branches, but it's just very strategic. They're not making any money.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be an independent distributor in those markets where AB share is so low.
Right.
And of course, and they have to take on other brands. I mean, they're, AB1 is, I think, Beatbox's number one distributor.
Yeah.
So you can make a living in when I was growing up in the business, AB would not take on any companion brands.
Yeah.
And boy, has the turntables turned on that one. So.
Yeah, that consent decree that caps them at their owned wholesalerships at about 10% of their U.S. volumes, that comes up next year. But to your point, Harry, like we would have seen them butting up on that 10% anyway if they were interested in it. And last we heard from Brendan Whitworth at our 2022 summit, they were at like 7%. And I think they've had more divestitures than they've bolted on since then, or at least broken even. So to your point, I mean, and Molson Coors only has one, right? Was it Coors Distributing Co., right? So I mean, I don't think they're different businesses, right? So
totally.
Well, we had the ICCPUD report came out almost 2 weeks ago now. I feel like we've talked so much about ICCPUD and the dietary guidelines and the Surgeon General and just the incessant onslaught of media covering this ad nauseum. I think we're gonna have some of the MBWA chief Craig Purser and BI chief Brian. Sorry, my brain doesn't work because I'm on cold meds. Brian Crawford next week to talk about the implications. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the upgraded dietary guidelines don't come out until like the end of 2025, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, they could come out at any time, but it usually is at the end of the year.
So it'll be interesting to see, like, if they're mounting this big alcohol's bad now, and the report doesn't come out until the end of the year. Also, HHS is in charge this year, right? Like they kind of trade off with USDA. Well, HHS is basically who let ICCPUD come in. So why do we think that it's going to be a good result for BevAlc? I don't know. I'm starting to get more worried that the worst may come to fruition, but who knows?
I'm more worried now than I was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
For sure. It seems like The Surgeon General report came out to give air cover for ICCPUD. The National Academies came out with a reasonable report. I thought it was interesting at the summit that Jim Cook at Boston Beer, he made some comments that AB quit funding independent scientific research about 10 years ago. And then at SAMCOM, you had Brendan Whitworth saying, hey, I just want to let you know that we're not going to talk about what other companies have or have not done about this. He was referring to Jim Cook. Now they're fighting with each other from stages. But he said, but don't, we are on it, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I am more worried now. I do think these things go in waves. We are in the middle of dry January. I know the scans have been terrible so far this year for all categories. I think that's just a function of more people taking part in dry January. And, does that mean they'll make up for it in February? I know when I used to do dry January, I would just drink more in February, because I would make up for it.
Right.
So I don't know.
I do have friends who told me they're participating this year, which was interesting. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. More and more people are doing it. And very few people last till the 31st, though. I will say that, at least in my friend group.
Yeah.
And then Bianca, you had a Hemp D9 report. Tell us about that hit this morning.
I did. So that was from our now my brain's fucked up.
It's contagious. It goes through the airwaves.
That was from our panel at the summit. And so we had some big players in the industry. We had Scott Selix, who's the co-founder of Climbing Heights. They're kind of, I'm not sure if they're quantifying the top 10 D9 brands at this point, but they're definitely among that cohort. And we had Austin Sawyer, who's president of CMC and represents a lot of D9 brands at this point. And then also Kyle Cook, who is founder of RTD brand Loverboy, and then just introduced a D9 brand with Flower Boy. And so, I think that topic was hotly anticipated through the whole conference because it came up almost organically in every session that we had. And so obviously even the big brands are watching it, even though they're loath to get involved at this point and kind of question the legality of it, which Scott, who's an attorney, he tried to set the record straight on that. And that, under the hemp bill, it's technically legal, and then states are doing what states are doing. But I think the big highlights are just that, I think we talked about contracts, which was important. We tried to focus on things that were, not so like lofty and were more tangible for distributors or brands looking to actually get involved. And so, given what's happened with the energy sector and those brands getting pulled from distributors, they kind of talked about how to protect yourself, and that they think, even though it's a new category, that SKU rationalization is definitely going to happen this year, especially in the mature markets like Minnesota, where there's just hundreds of brands on shelf, and especially brands that are made by small craft brewers that it's kind of been a saving grace for their business, but they may not have the the capacity as these bigger brands that are more buttoned up, which is important in this category. So that's kind of what I was interested. We're also expecting some news probably in March about a top 3 publicly traded convenience store that's going to start carrying D9 brands in Georgia, and will roll out to about 1,500 stores after that. So that would be the first major publicly traded retailer to carry it, and Austin kind of characterized it as this domino effect that's going to happen after that with other retailers who've, been looking at it. That's kind of the green light for them to go ahead and get involved.
When we don't know which retailer that is?
We can't name
but we
names
can't say
yet.
Okay.
You can read between the lines. Go read. Yeah, I mean, Bianca gave a lot of clues. I think people can figure it out.
Yeah, we can't name names yet, but that's...
So if it's I'll just start naming names and you blink twice. So I'll start with Racetrack, Circle K, Tetco. No, I'm just kidding.
Tetco. Tesco
Tetco.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, it's
Wow.
it's super interesting. I think the regs need to get buttoned up in each state a lot more before
Yeah.
everybody gets super comfortable with it. But I will tell you, like every parent at my kids' school, because they know we cover beverages, they're like, "Hey, have y'all tried these D9 drinks?" And we're like, "Yeah, we have."
Yeah.
Like, we like
Yeah.
them. So honestly, I mean, the demand is there. It's whether it's going to get buttoned up on the back end and how comfortable distributors are going to be, and whether there's going to be any scandals involved with, errands.
Because everybody kind of focuses on the farm bill, but really it's the FDA that needs to be addressed, because it's still not legal to put D9 into food and beverages from an FDA standpoint. Farm bill may allow it, but the FDA definitely does.
Flying headphones.
This is such a disaster. I swear. I'm sorry to our readers and listeners. It's been a hell week over here with poop flowing out of toilets, dogs being sent off to boot camp. I haven't been feeling well. We will be back next week in full force, and my toilets will be fixed. And not only that, but having Purser and Brian Crawford on, that'll be good to talk about a lot of stuff.
Lend an air of legitimacy to us.
Yes, we just had to get something out because of the summit. We haven't had anything in like 2 weeks, but okay. So anything else that we're missing?
One more thing. This is not, we cover this story over and over again, but Bloomberg reported this morning that Diageo is reportedly reviewing its portfolio to potentially, divest of certain things, including Ciroc. And then it says, according to sources, the range of possibility being studied is a potential spinoff or sale of Guinness, its premier beer brand, which would likely be valued north of 10 billion. People familiar with the matter said. We've heard a version of this for decades, but who knows? Who knows? Guinness is, of course, rocking in the U.S.
Rocking everywhere. It's rocking everywhere in the UK too.
So,
yeah, like you said, Jen, literally one of the first stories I wrote when Beer Biz Daily was created was that Guinness was going to be jettisoned from Diageo, and it comes up pretty much every year. If they can get 10 billion though for it, it might be worth spinning it off, because this is the first time we've had a Diageo that's been hurting because of their spirits business rather than their beer business. It's usually the other way around, and their stock has just been in the tank for the last year or 6 months. So that might be real this time. Who knows? But, also, again, every year this comes up. Do we think the market, I feel like analysts, they overemphasize the health and wellness thing, that people aren't drinking it. But I see, like I said, I'm more scared than I was 6 months ago, but I'm still not scared, because I think most people in their daily lives, I know, they're not, the New York Times writers, in other words, are not representative of the American people. They go to their dinner parties, and yes, they're all talking about it. Like every New York Times. Well, they bring in these anecdotal things where I was at a dinner party. I was like, okay, these aren't normal people, because I go to dinner parties down the street and everybody's just wild drunk. Okay, it's a very different demographic here. Anyway, I think that's a good summary of the week's news, and so. I want everybody to have a good weekend. I have a dumpster out here. I'm throwing a lot of stuff away. We're doing spring cleaning.
Good job. Good job.
Don't throw away your dongles, though, Harry.
No. I'm sending them all to you. And so
save the dongles.
Very good. Well, everybody have a good weekend, and we will shout at you next week.
Cheers.